Hello, we're going to go into this, and it's going to be a training that's going to show you how to speak to your partner, especially the complicated topics within your relationship. Because with any relationship, you are consistently evolving. The person that you were last year is different to the person that you are based off of where you're working. If you've got kids, your kids are growing older. Therefore, the way you are approaching life is consistently changing, and therefore it presents these issues within the relationship, because when you guys do not communicate the differences that you have, or difference of ideas that you have, or at least different desires that you might have, depending on where what you've evolved to, it becomes really complicated. Because sometimes when you want to speak to your partner about the adjustments that need to be made for the relationship to be good for both of you, it can be very difficult, because the initial part might make them feel accountable for you dropping within the relationship, so for you feeling a bit negatively within the relationship, which can be hard, because sometimes you love your partner and you want to see them in a place where they are filled with anxiety, for example, or filled with a sense of regret, or sense of or feeling negative feelings. So sometimes we spare them from having those negative feelings by not saying what we want to say. And then by doing so, it hurts the both of you. It hurts the relationship. So we're going to go into this where this guy is going this. I'm going to sort of summarize what he's saying, so I don't bore you with trying to read the whole thing, as I'm dyslexic. But the real context of this, he's saying he was kind of stressed out by a lot of things. But the major thing was that it was the sex side of things that was really bothering him. And it got to the point where his wife realized what was going on, that look, he's a bit distant, what is going on. And again, this, I need to show you that the fact that she's concerned about the distance, or him distancing, or him not being himself, kind of shows that at least she's in tune to the relationship. She might not be just aware of the impact of sex. And again, when it comes to sex, it's also it's its value is determined by the person who. So, for example, for us men, the value for sex within a relationship is critical in terms of the sense of connection. We feel the more sense of connection because of this intimate side of things, where you are being chosen by somebody, and this actually being chosen is quite empowering for a man. And again, women don't see it from that way, because sometimes there have been times where they feel like they're pieces of meat, and therefore it cheapens it for them. And they say, okay, look, I don't want to feel like a piece of meat, so therefore I'm not going to come into it. But again, without this ability to communicate, it makes it so much more difficult for both of you. So the fact that she's actually trying to figure out what's going on. So I think here he says, she messaged me and she asked me what was going on. Again, the fact that there was complex emotions going on, and they chose to speak over text, already tells me why it's difficult for them to speak face to face. So that's a difficult, big red flag in terms of relationship growth. So he goes on to say, just told you that he's stressed, and therefore he didn't open up. And what that mean, what that was him trying to not make you feel uncomfortable by saying what is actually going on. And also at the same time, he was also preserving himself, because he didn't want to feel uncomfortable or feel responsible for making her feel uncomfortable. And the other side of it is that sometimes she might feel uncomfortable and then make him feel uncomfortable. So she might shame him for wanting sex, or especially if it's not the first time that they've talked about sex. So you'll be like, oh, why are you talking about sex all the time? Why is it that you only want one thing? And you get shamed for it. So there's probably some historical events that have happened before this that has caused him to feel a sense of, I should or I shouldn't say anything. So he goes on to say, look, he feels really gutted that he didn't say something, because this was the perfect opportunity to actually open up. And I feel for him, because I've spoken to a lot of clients. They struggle with these sort of scenarios where they want to say these complex things that will cause negative emotions. And again, there's this real resistance of wanting to cause negative emotions in a relationship, because it feels like it's already distant. It feels like it's already on the rocks. So I'm not going to add anything else to make it worse. And again, there's this feeling of, again, not really knowing what to say. Again, I pointed out to this, that he might have said something before, and he might have had such a negative reaction, and he just doesn't want to go there again, because he just thinks, look, maybe if I don't say anything, maybe it's just gonna sort of work itself out. But it doesn't work that way. And really not dealing with this will only just make it worse. All the time, she's just gonna really think, look, sex thing is not a problem. He's not just stressed, he's just highly stressed. And again, that is on its own. When you communicate when you're stressed and it looks like you are overwhelmed, it lowers your value sexually. Now, that's a different thing we can talk about on a different episode, but it's very important that you are you are a warrior when it comes to certain life events and what's going on, and you are dealing with it strategically. And there's certain tools I can give you in order to do so that when you are facing levels of stress, you got enough tools to cope with it and make good decisions and continuously go into a place where you're high impact within your life and your family. And what is important as well is that when you are, again, when I say this, people say, well, you're not supposed to share with the wife. You can share with your wife, but I tend to share victories instead of wounds. So, for example, if I'm going through something, that's not the time I'm sharing. I'm focused on dealing with it. And I'm making sure I'm taking all the arrows on my back so that they don't have to face anything. And then when I get it resolved, I'll be like, look, a few months ago, I was dealing with this, and therefore I dealt with this. And again, she's seeing that I'm still human. I still feel certain feelings, but at the same time, I have handled it, which is very important. So again, not going out of topic. So when it comes to these communications, or you hear people saying you sit your other partner down and tell them how you feel, and that is the worst advice that you can that's ever been put out there, because to a certain extent it's true. Yes, you should, but at the same time, it's very important that when you do share those, you're sharing in a way that shows collaboration, shows that you're still devoted to that person, and that this is an opportunity for you guys to fix something together, rather than this is your opportunity to fix me. And this is how most people approach it. So again, we will go into a tool that I use, and when it comes to sort of situation like this. So in this scenario, it was the fact that there was lack of sex within his relationship. So if with this app, you would go to the chat page, and is what we call the conversational framework, which he would use. So you'd use the conversational framework, and then also use the objection framework if that needs to happen. And if things go well, you might use the attraction tactic. So this one, the conversational framework, you would click on that, and what that does is that in this place where they're not having sex, there is a level of sexual discomfort, and that's the reason why it's happening. So if it doesn't feel a sense of confidence to go to her and seduce her and then to be successful seduction, it means that there is some sexual discomfort, not just for her, but for both of you. Because now whenever it comes to approaching a sexual interaction, you feel uncomfortable. So again, there's a discomfort, and then for her is a discomfort, and both of you guys now in this place where, again, you're not even talking about it. So in this level, because I would assume he's a beginner, because he doesn't even speak to her directly, in order to start the conversation, you would put sexual discomfort, which is, and again, it gives you a whole host of different sections that you might be struggling with. This is the seduction steps that you would take in order to have a sexual encounter. So if whichever you're stuck in, you just put that one, and then it gives you an opportunity to communicate. Again, if you're at a beginner level, this will give you and again, the way you think about this, that the way we framed it, especially when it's beginner, medium, and higher level, is that within a bullseye, you have the outer layers, and the beginner side is the outer layers, where it's a bit broader and it doesn't put so much sexual intent in what you're saying. And then as you get better, you put more sexual intent, and the bullseye will be high sexual intent. So in this case, when you tap that in, you can see it says you wanted to speak to her. This is now what you would say to her. I want to discuss something that's important. Our current situation is not sustainable. It's not sustainable for both of us. Can we talk about what might be causing the discomfort in our intimate life? Now, again, you can rephrase it in the words that you would use. But you can see this, it's framed in this way that is, let's fix this thing that is outside of us, which is more powerful, as in rather than let me put all of this on you to fix, which again, it causes this real visceral reaction that most people are trying to avoid. So this is, we call it the Reconnect app, and this is, it could a whole host of different things that you can do within, like I said, you can, within the attraction side of things, the seduction side of things, and even the sexual frequency. What are those things that you can say in order to keep things going within your relationship? So this is why it's extremely powerful. And again, why it's so powerful is the fact that it's got a 30-day free trial. So you go 30 days free trial, you go and then you sign up to it. And once you sign up, you've got 30 days of being able to start fixing your relationship. And for us, the reason why I can give you 30 days is that I know you'll be using it for a very long time. So it gives you 30 days of you being able to see how it works. And you'll see that it works. Because again, just like you've been my wife likes to watch 600-Pound Life. You've been eating a lot of junk and you've got your place where you're unhealthy and you need to make a change. And what this app does, it just gives you those necessary changes every single day. And it's going to take you, in order to change a sexless relationship successfully, it takes anywhere between a year, 2 years, and even then you still need some more work to continue going. So because again, it's taking you however old you are to get to this place. So if you're 40 years old, it's taking you 40 years old to become to the sexless place, because everything that is causing you issues within your relationship was there before you got into the relationship. So you're having to readdress many things. And therefore, whenever you hear somebody saying you can change your relationship within a week or 2 weeks, there's a whole host of manipulation that they're putting within that framework. And then that's why it kind of works for a bit and then sort of falls away as it goes along, and I know this because a lot of people that I coach have come from those coaches. So this one works because it's sustainable, it's changing you, but more importantly, as it changes you, start affecting your relationship, as opposed to the focus being the relationship, because if I make the focus the relationship, it's then forces her to feel like she's not part of it. And again, this is what therapists do, I'm not going to go into that. So this is why it's extremely powerful. If this gentleman had this tool, you would have been able to say, look, yes, I feel really down at the moment, or whatever emotion is feeling, and feeling stressed. And one of the particular reasons is because we are missing this connection. And therefore, it's something that I want us to talk about. And it's something that I would like for us to address so we can get better at approaching this sexual encounters, because it's important to me. And when you put it that way, it's this collaborative thing, which is completely different. Again, it's non-committal for her in terms of, from a sexual standpoint. Commitment is to the relationship, which is, again, it's a lot harder for her to say, no, I don't want to do that. And you are talking about you guys being better within the relationship. Again, she needs to come to that table so we can talk about it. And the sex part is an important part of the relationship. And therefore, when you say the relationship, it's not some sort of or some sort of manipulation, as most people would sort of conscript it to. It's not. It's part of the relationship. So when I say I'm talking about the relationship, I'm talking about everything because again, when you talk about the intimate side of things, it is also attached to many other parts of the relationship. So there's this interwoven part of the relationship that is important. So when you say, look, we're going to talk about the relationship, it's not a trick to just get it to see the value and then you sort of switch. That's not the case. It's the case of saying, like, we're talking about the relationship and we're also talking about the intimacy side of things. And I use intimacy because it lowers when you say sex and so on, there's whatever negative association that person might have, it might hinder the actual conversation itself. So hopefully this is helpful for you guys who are looking to up-level their relationship, especially when you have been sexless for a while and didn't really know what to say and how to have that conversation. I'll within the description of our channel and within the comments, you'll be able to see the link to the website, so you can actually sign up for your free trial and be able to start having those conversations. Again, we'll be making videos on how to use the actual tool, so you can actually have more of the features and see what some of the features, some really incredible features. One that we've just introduced as the final thing is what we call the ICE decision framework, which is whenever you're making a decision, how you make a decision and how that impacts everything that is around you. Again, we talked about this in terms of stress. And the one last thing I might want to show you before we go, if you were talking about this, I've been all over the place, but I'm going to try to bring it home here. So the one thing about this is that when you talk about this, and she comes to sit with you, and then when you talk about the intimacy side of things, and then she's got this objection, like, oh, I'm really not sure what's going on here. There is also what we call the objection handling. So what that does is that you then write what she says here, and then it will generate a response. So for example, she says, I feel like a piece of meat. And what that does then is, if you don't know what to say, then it will give you different things to say. Like, I understand how it might make you feel uncomfortable. What if we approached it differently? Perhaps we could start by sharing, so it gives you a way of responding, because sometimes she will have this sort of negative response, and we then become very, very defensive. And by being defensive, then it really spirals the conversation into something that it's not. And then you feel like we just had an argument with a fight instead of actually trying to fix the relationship. So this is why this is absolutely powerful, and is going to be absolutely a game changer within this sexless, or this changing sexless marriages. That we've thought about everything. Like I said, with the conversations that you're having, you will see the performance matrix. So that's when the conversations that you're having, you'll be able to log those. There's also the voice journal. So you'll be journaling what's happening, what you've said, and all of that, what you're doing is being tracked by AI, therefore seeing what you need to be doing for the next steps. And again, with the decision framework, it walks you through like the impact of a decision, what's the percentage of that decision actually working out, and so on. So it's absolutely incredible. Like I said, you've got 30 days to actually prove me wrong and say, look, this is a pile of garbage, therefore I'm not going to pay for it. And it could be absolutely a game changer for you and get your relationship to where you want it to be. So thank you very much. Say more than I needed to say, but thank you very much for your time. Hope to see you again. If you've got any questions, put in the comments and I'll get back to you.